They said this season would break Carolina. Too many injuries. Too many question marks. Too many ghosts from the past still haunting the locker room. But here we are, halfway through the year, and the Carolina Panthers are still standing. Not perfect. Not polished. But alive. Fighting. This isn't the same team that stumbled and searched for identity the last few seasons. This team has grit in its veins and scars on its hands. They've clawed their way to a winning record for the first time this deep into the season since 2019. 5 wins in their last 7 games, and every single one of them felt like a street fight. Sure, the numbers don't paint them as contenders. 26th in points per game. 22nd in total yards. A -4 turnover margin that would make most coaches sweat through their headset. But numbers don't bleed. Numbers don't grind out 4th and 1 conversions with everything on the line. This team does. Because when you look closer, you see something different, something real. A defense ranked 13th in the league in yards allowed. A secondary that's tied for 10th in interceptions. A unit that doesn't panic, doesn't fold, and doesn't care what the stat sheet says, because when the scoreboard hits 0, they've done their job. Even the offense, though inconsistent, is beginning to show flashes. Rico Dowdle has bulldozed his way into the top 3 among NFL rushers. The offensive line, once a weakness, is now standing tall against top pass rushers. And most importantly, Carolina has become one of the most disciplined teams in the league, among the least penalized in the NFL. That's a team that listens. That's a team that's maturing. Every win feels like a fight to survive. Every loss feels like a lesson that cuts deep. But through it all, something's changing. There's a quiet belief growing inside that locker room, a belief that this team can still take what's theirs. Because sometimes, you don't need to score 40 to prove you belong. Sometimes, 20 is enough, when your defense can hold the line. That's Carolina football right now. Ugly. Gritty. Unforgiving. But it's real, and it's working. And as we hit the midpoint of the season, one truth is becoming clear: this team might not be pretty, but they are dangerous. 2 years ago, the Carolina Panthers were buried at the bottom of the league. 0-6. 1-7. The kind of starts that crush a locker room before the season even begins. It took everything, every ounce of pride, every scrap of belief, just to get 5 wins last year. And that 5th win didn't come until the final week of the season. Remember that. Remember 2023. 2-15. That was rock bottom. That was the pain that forged the fire we're seeing now. Because when you've lived through seasons like that, a 5-4 start feels different. It feels earned. It feels like proof that the rebuild is finally becoming real. And here's the thing, this isn't luck. Carolina's earned every inch of this climb. Players that were afterthoughts are turning into difference makers. Rico Dowdle has exploded into one of the league's top rushers, running like a man possessed, fighting for every yard, every inch, every breath. Tet McMillan. Playing beyond expectation, fearless in every route, every catch. And then there's the offensive line, a group that's taken every hit and still stood tall. Holding Micah Parsons to 0 pressures. That's not just good, that's elite. That's statement football. Cade Mays stepping in at center has stabilized a unit that's been battered all year. This O-line isn't just surviving, it's evolving. And on defense, man, this group deserves its flowers. They've taken their lumps, they've been tested, but they've grown into one of the top half units in the league. 10th in interceptions. 13th in yards allowed. A defense that bends but doesn't break. You can feel the difference when you watch them now, the confidence, the communication, the pride. They're not hoping to hang on. They're expecting to win. When Carolina beat Green Bay, it wasn't just another win, it was a statement. It said, "We belong. This team can go toe-to-toe with anyone." They might get knocked down, sure. But they won't stay down. Not anymore. Even that ugly loss to New England earlier in the season, if they played that same game today, you can bet it wouldn't end the same way. This team has grown. They've learned. They've started to believe in themselves again. Yes, the second half of the season won't be easy. The schedule is brutal. The tests are real. But for the first time in years, Carolina isn't dreading the challenge, they're embracing it. Every matchup now is a chance to prove something. Every snap, a shot at redemption. This team has been through the storm. They've seen the worst. Now it's time to see how high they can rise. Because this second half of the season, it's not just about survival anymore, it's about arrival. The next battle comes with a familiar name, the New Orleans Saints. A rivalry soaked in history, emotion, and tension. But this time, the story feels different. Because the Saints, they're limping into this one. Their offense is lifeless, barely putting up 15 points a game, their passing game stuck in neutral, and their run game gasping for air. Less than 90 rushing yards a week, that's not Saints football. That's survival mode. And defensively, it's not much better. They're giving up almost 27 points a game, letting teams walk all over them both through the air and on the ground. 333 yards allowed per game, that's not a wall, that's a revolving door. This matchup isn't just another Sunday. It's a chance for Carolina to send a message. Rico Dowdle, the heart and hammer of this Panthers offense, should have a field day. The way he's been running lately, he doesn't just carry the ball, he carries momentum. Every stiff arm, every broken tackle feels like a statement, we're not the same Carolina anymore. If the weather holds up in Charlotte, this could be the kind of game where Carolina explodes, where every frustration from the early season gets unleashed. The kind of win where you don't just beat your opponent, you bury them. Because here's the truth, the Saints are vulnerable. They're reeling. And this is exactly the kind of opponent the old Panthers would play down to. But this isn't that team. Not anymore. So the mission is simple, don't play with your food. Finish your meal. Start fast. Hit hard. Don't let them breathe. By the end of the third quarter, this game should already be over. You can picture it now, the crowd roaring, Carolina's defense swarming, the offense pounding away as the clock bleeds out. A blowout not out of arrogance, but out of growth. Out of a team finally understanding what it means to dominate. And then, there's that moment, the highlight that fans will replay again and again. Turk Wharton standing tall after the Green Bay win, flashing that night-night signal to the crowd, like Steph Curry putting the game to bed. That energy, that confidence, that swagger, that's what's fueling Carolina right now. The few Panther fans who made the trip to Lambeau Field, they didn't just cheer, they roared. Surrounded by thousands of green and gold, they shouted until their voices cracked. And when that final field goal split the uprights, they looked around at the stunned Packers faithful, and smiled. That moment wasn't just a win. It was a reminder. That belief can travel. That this team, no matter how far from home, is building something worth standing behind. Now it's time to bring that same fire home. To turn Bank of America Stadium into a fortress again. The Saints are next, and Carolina has the chance to prove that this isn't a fluke, it's a turning point. Because this game isn't just about stats or standings. It's about pride. It's about redemption. It's about showing the world that the Carolina Panthers are done being overlooked. Every great defense has a heartbeat. For years in Carolina, that heartbeat had a name, Luke Kuechly. A genius in pads. A mind that saw plays before they even happened. You could almost feel it, the way he'd shift the defense, point out a gap, and scream, he's coming left, right before the snap. It wasn't just instinct. It was art. So when fans today start looking for the next Kuechly, it's not about numbers, it's about leadership. Command. That presence that makes 11 men move as one. Right now, Trevin Wallace is stepping into that space. They handed him the green dot, the defensive play caller's badge of honor, and since then, everything's changed. The communication is sharper. The alignment cleaner. The defense moves like a unit, not a collection of parts. And yes, Jack Roseboom is flying all over the field, making highlight tackles and racking up stats like a man possessed. But calling a defense? That's a whole different challenge. Because it's not just about hitting, it's about directing traffic while the world around you explodes. That's the hidden magic Luke had. He didn't just play the game. He orchestrated it. He saw everything, shifts, motions, screens, audibles, and he'd fix it before it ever broke. And right now, Wallace is showing shades of that brilliance. He's not perfect yet, but you can feel it, the calm before the storm. The defense listens when he speaks. And that, right there, is leadership. So can Roseboom be the next Luke Kuechly? Maybe not in voice, but in heart, absolutely. He's the hammer. Wallace is the brain. Together, they're starting to give Carolina something they haven't had in years, a defense that actually feels dangerous again. That's what makes this team special right now. It's not built on stars, it's built on believers. Guys who play for each other, who yell, "Keep pounding," in the huddle like it's a promise, not a slogan. And if you've been watching since day one, you know exactly what that phrase means. It's not about never losing, it's about never quitting. Even when the scoreboard says you should. Even when the world laughs. The Panthers fanbase gets it. They've lived through heartbreak, rebuilds, and false hope. But through all of it, they never stopped pounding. So when fans say, "You don't get to come back just because we're winning," it's not bitterness. It's pride. Because being a Panther isn't something you wear, it's something you endure. Through every loss. Every doubt. Every storm. And now, with Wallace calling the shots and Roseboom wrecking backfields, you can feel that old spirit returning. The swagger. The unity. The belief. They're not the Luke Kuechly Panthers anymore, they're the new era. And they're writing their own story, one tackle, one roar, one heartbeat at a time. Keep pounding, Carolina. The heart of this defense is alive again.